Alright, so after the last episode of American Horror Stories, Baal, they've definitely upped the expectations of what I was expecting out of the show. Again, you've heard my feelings about the 5 episodes that have been done so far. We got 2 more, including this one I'm going to talk about. Episode 6 of this spin-off series is called Feral. And I gotta say, it definitely does something that still lives up to some slight expectations. Again, I don't know if this was supposed to be related to something in the actual universe, but I'm guessing by this point, and 6 episodes in, you have to come to that conclusion that most of these stories have nothing to do with the main universe. So even though the first 2 episodes are connected to Murder House, every episode thereafter is kind of just like some other, tale from like a book or a story that's being told, I guess, set in the same atmosphere as the original series. It's kind of like Tales from the Crypt almost, how it's just these completely separate stories that don't have anything to do with each other, but also don't have anything to do with its parent universe being actual American Horror Story and any of those seasons and any of those universe set up in those seasons. And I've mentioned this in the previous post as well, that it's just weird how you are making this separate kind of show where you're doing all of these separate stories that have no connection, but then you start it off with 2 episodes directly connected to your infant season. Like, Murder House was what started the show, and that's probably the one that has the majority of the fan base. Like, everybody loves Murder House, and it's just weird how you incorporate that universe into 2 of these episodes, and now we're up to episode 6, and 4 of them have absolutely nothing to do with any of the universe. So if you wanted to set the premise that they weren't connected, I'm sure the fan base, including myself, is perfectly okay with that. I don't think there's a problem with setting up a universe in each episode in and of itself. And the universe they set up for things like Baal and Feral, those are fantastic. Again, I don't like the naughty list. I forget what the one before that was. Drive-In. Drive-In was fun. I enjoyed that one. I think that one set up a nice premise where it could have been its own season, same as kind of Baal. Baal could have been its own season too. It could have been American Horror Story, Fertility or something like that. And I think I even mentioned that in the episode I did for Baal. But this one, Feral, is really interesting. I'm not going to say it's good or bad. It's just about, whether or not you enjoyed its actual story. So the actual story of it is this couple takes their child on a vacation, and the kid goes missing. Then it time hops 10 years, and they've divorced. The father goes insane. You get the notion that he's been driven down all these paths to find his son, and all of them have either been fake or have led to nothing, and that's caused their marriage to kind of deplete, until finally somebody comes and says, listen, I think I saw your son. Here's a picture of him. This is how old he would be. Give me $10,000 and I'll take you to him. And of course it sounds like a scam. It sounds like they're going to get, taken for a ride. And again, you could have even have said that this story by itself, stretched a bit, could have been its own season. Most of the time the seasons are anywhere between 9 and 13 episodes. You could have had the first episode extend that camping sequence, and then the very end, bam, the kid goes missing. Second episode, a year late, the search begins, and they start searching for him and whatnot. This also sees the return of the actor who played Michael in American Horror Story. American Horror Story Apocalypse. I don't know why I totally forgot about that. That's probably one of the best ones. And I forget the actor's name off the top of my head as well, but it sees his return, so it's nice to see another, American Horror Story veteran, enter the field. And he plays the park ranger who's trying to tell him, oh, listen, don't go into the woods. There's things in the woods you don't want to deal with. And the lady's like, what do you mean, Bigfoot? And he's like, I didn't say that. So it's for you to think that it's Bigfoot in a way, which is okay, but then you still could have dragged that out maybe 2 episodes by itself. You know what I'm saying? Like have at least 3 episodes that's building up the idea that the kid's missing and then the parents divorce. Then you do a time jump for the 4th episode. After you time jump the 4th episode, you start also going back and like having the father go through all of these people that are like conning him. And each of those episodes could be a twist. And you can do that for 3 episodes. Every time you think the father's going to get it, no, he's just getting conned and it's driving him farther and farther away from his wife, leading them to separate. That's 3 episodes. Those 6 episodes by itself is basically what they did within the first 20 minutes of this episode. So the first half of this, because I think it's 40 minutes, the first half of this episode could have easily been 6 episodes by itself in its own season. So I guess maybe what they did was they had all of these good stories that they were sitting on, that they would just like, maybe we save these for seasons in the future. Or if we can't think of anything else to add to it, let's just make them part of the American Horror Stories show that we're now going to push out. And, you know, they're eventually going to run out of ideas for American Horror Story. Like, if you look at the first 2 seasons of plain American Horror Story, they packed so much in there. Like, at least Murder House, there was so much content and so many storylines to follow with all of the different ghosts that were in there. At least it was all still focused on Murder House. Asylum, which I'm probably going to get ridiculed for this, Asylum is probably my least favorite because of so much that's involved. Each of those individual stories that is in that one season, like you're talking about demon possession, you're talking about alien abduction, you're talking about psycho killers, like there's a lot in season 2 that if you picked out, each of those stories could have been their own separate individual seasons, including a season for what Asylum was actually supposed to be about, and that was about the characters in the asylum. It just so happened that most of those characters were either dealing with alien abduction, dealing with murderers, dealing with possession, and dealing with just being crazy people in the asylum. Like, Asylum to me is just the most all over the place, and I get that's probably where a lot of people became true fans. Like, Murder House got you hooked, and then Asylum had you, like, there for the long run. I'm going to have to say that Coven was that for me. That's the first season I watched from front to back, simply because it's probably the most cohesive storytelling-wise. Nothing about that season drifts off from anything that's really based on what the core value of the season is about. It's all about the witches, it's all about the magic, it's about the voodoo, and it's all about all of these different, you know, kind of houses and witches and whatnot. It's just the way that story culminates into what that season gives you. It's just kind of perfect storytelling wise, and I just feel like Asylum doesn't give you all of that. And you know, I didn't really watch it until Coven, so I can't really say Murder House is my favorite, though people who are true like diehard fans from the beginning, Murder House will always have that place in their heart. But I started on Coven, so Coven is the expectation like that I have. That's where my level is. It's that kind of storytelling that has to be told. And then Roanoke did a great job at telling that. I know most people hate that one, but I love Roanoke. And then you had Apocalypse, which brought everything together, and that story was just so cohesive, and incorporating all of the other ones was just really good. And then you have the one that was very much about fear-mongering and, you know, just that kind of atmosphere, you know, politically and socially that was revolving around that time and area. Season 7, Cult, that's what, you know, that storyline basically was. Then you had Hotel. Hotel was fantastic. Hotel front to back, you know, with the fact that it's based on like a real hotel, just an over-exaggeration of the story. It's just like all of these seasons kind of have their little places where the stories make sense in a way. So you could have easily taken a story like Feral and made it a full season. You just have to dedicate some time to what you want to do with that story building, you know, tools that you have at your disposal. When you have a 40-minute episode and you do a 10-year jump, that 10 years could easily be 6 or 7 episodes by itself. And then the climax is 3 episodes with all the numerous twists you want to have. But, you know, you decided to go with this one 40-minute episode and put it into this separate season. that's fine. I'm not saying that it's poor decision making on, FX part or the production part. I'm just saying it's a missed opportunity. When it comes to a story like this one, or Ball, or even Drive-In, those are great stories that could have been separated. And I really have started to appreciate Drive-In even more now because of the fact that I've come to the conclusion myself, and I've actually accepted the fact that these have no connection to American Horror Story. And it's kind of upsetting that it took till episode 6 for me to get there. You started off by giving me a level of expectation with the first 2 episodes that I was expecting something to have, some sort of other connections. And when I started to learn, okay, you know what, they're not going to do that. This is more American Horror Stories, Beyond Belief, or Tales from the Crypt. Like, Tales from the Crypt is probably the best example I can give. And anybody who's a 90s kid who had HBO and stayed up late to watch, Tales from the Crypt with the Crypt Keeper, I was even a fan of the cartoon version of that. Like, we love that. We love the idea of these separate individual stories. And if that's where they're going to go from moving forward, I'm perfectly okay with that. And I don't know what the last episode is about, but if they stick to that, or if they have some episode that's going to accumulate in all of these episodes kind of coming together, and maybe that's what they're setting up, that American Horror Stories is going to be its own universe, then okay, that sounds good. Maybe Game Over, will have that scenario. I don't know. Just by the name itself is kind of drifting into this atmosphere where I don't know what to expect, just as I didn't know what to expect from Feral, And again, Feral lives up to the expectations of what I expected from episodes like Ball and episodes like Drive-In. And it's probably one of the better of the entire season. It's got a fantastic ending. I love the ending. I love those endings where it's kind of like... Actually, no, I won't even say it's kind of like Ball, because Ball has its own unique ending. And this ending is unique in the sense that, you get to the final answer and you get the solution, but it's not the solution you want. It's not the ending that you were kind of looking for. Maybe some expected it, maybe some didn't. I kind of expected it to an extent, but it really is probably, the best ending out of the entire season. Even if it's not the best episode, it is the best ending to an episode, regardless of what Drive-In gives us. Drive-In would have given us a great ending if that led into something. Drive-In's ending is basically another apocalypse or another world ending almost, or another kind of... It could have led into this thing where it's like post-apocalyptic. We're going through and fighting these, possessed people or whatever. But are they going to do that? I don't think so. So if they're not going to do that, that ending is poor to me. And this ending is satisfying because it actually has a conclusion. Just as Ball sort of has a conclusion, and even the Naughty List kind of leaves this conclusion. But again, that's my least favorite episode out of everything. I despise the Naughty List out of every episode so far of the 6. But we still have one more. I don't know what to expect from Game Over, but so far, Feral, Ball, the last 2, they've really been up in the ante, I guess you could say. And I'm looking forward to the season finale, and hopefully, it gives me what I was expecting.